Well, he's a difficult man to beat around this track, and once again, Max Verstappen proved to be the absolute king of the Red Bull ring. Started from P1, finished P1, takes pole position. Well, he took pole position. You know how it works. Anyway, starts the Grand Prix from first place. There is a very disappointed man, Pierre Gasly, who I think has a serious allergy to sprint races. But Pietro Fittipaldi, welcome to the post-sprint show. Max Verstappen doing everything right today.
Yeah, and they were flying off the start, had the lead, then the Ferrari started battling. He opened even more of a lead. They've always had so much pace here in Red Bull Ring. It's really their track. I mean, they've always been so strong.
Yeah, they really have. Sergio Perez, of course, starting from down in P13, finishing up in a brilliant P5. 8 positions made up for him, putting the moves on. Great day out for Checo as well.
Yeah, coming up the field, obviously I was following the Haas, and already on the start, we're looking at Hamilton and Perez, because those are the guys who are going to come through the field. And on the start, he went from 13th to 9th, 8th.
Yeah, it was a great start, wasn't it?
It was awesome. And then he was already on us, and which was a shame kind of for Haas, because we were trying to get more of a breather from them. But already there, had the pace, passed no problem. Passed us a lot quicker than Hamilton, for example. And I think that has maybe to do a little bit with straight line speed. They're able to get past. I think Hamilton struggled a little bit more to get past down into turn 2 and turn 4.
Yeah, it was Max Verstappen then who led the way home, so he'll be starting from P1 tomorrow with Charles Leclerc P2, Carlos Sainz P3, George Russell P4, as you said, Sergio Perez P5. But before the race even began, Fernando Alonso left on the grid, and he'd spent all of FP2 this morning driving on the dirty side of the grid, cleaning up his grid space down there in P8. And then the grid moves away, and he's still got his tyre blankets on. The team told us there was a technical issue with the car, brought him into the pit lane, couldn't resolve that technical issue, and all that hard work from Alpine and Fernando Alonso undone in a moment.
Yeah, that's always so difficult. And as well, when you're going into a sprint race where you can capitalize on points as well, it's kind of like a double loss.
Yeah.
Because you have the points from the sprint race, then you have the points tomorrow. So you lose the track position, you lose the points from today. You have to start in the back tomorrow. At least they have the pace, and they have strong race pace. That's what we've been able to notice. Ocon had really good race pace as well, much better than us with the Haas. But with that race pace, at least he'll be able to kind of try to turn it around tomorrow.
The team weren't sure during the race exactly what the problem for Fernando was, but he spoke to Lawrence Barretto soon after his retirement. So let's see if Fernando knew exactly what went down and stopped him from taking part in the sprint today.
Fernando, we saw the yellow flags, then we saw the tyre blankets still on your car. What was going through your mind at that point?
Well, tire blankets was second priority. Our biggest concern was to fire up the car, and we couldn't. There is something electrical on the car that it was switched off all the time. So, yeah, we will investigate and try to fix it for tomorrow.
You seem to be driving at such a high level this year, but you're not getting the points. Like, how are you kind of coping with that?
I mean, it's very disappointed, very frustrating, because as you said, I'm driving probably at one of my highest levels in my career, and the car doesn't start the engine on the race like today. So, yeah, not many points, but on my side, I'm very proud of the job that I'm doing. And if I have DNF or 0 points because my mistake or my something, I will feel bad. As long as I'm trying to do my job, I try to cope with it.
Hard luck, thanks.
Fernando's lost a huge number of points this year through no fault of his own once again. So it's a battery issue today. The battery on the car failed. Even an external battery couldn't get it started. And he obviously didn't start the race. We understand Esteban Ocon slowed and stopped in sector 1 on the sort of, not the final lap, but after the checkered flag. So he had to walk back to the paddock. Big problems down at Alpine today.
Oh, I didn't even realize that. So he stopped after the checkered flag. His car came to a stop.
Came to a stop in sector 1. Yeah.
I mean, if it's something big, they might have to start, depending what they have to change, might have to start from the back tomorrow.
Yeah, disappointing day then for Alpine. Even though Esteban Ocon did come home in P6 and got points today, he will hope that he can start from a P6 tomorrow, because as Pietro was saying, that Alpine does have pretty good race pace. The ultimate sprint was 1 lap shorter than it should have been, because Zhou Guanyu caused the the extra formation lap. Looked like the car just shut down on him coming to the line, managed to get it restarted, and off he went. How difficult or easy is it to reset a car, restart the car, and get it moving again if it suddenly shuts down on you?
It depends what the problem is, because if it's something major and you have to There's a couple things you can do. Usually, you can just power cycle the car. So on the switch, on the cockpit, you have kind of like this little metal piece. And there's P0, P1, and P2. P0 is when it's all off. When you go from P0 to P1, you power up the car. And then P2 is kind of you turn the ignition on, and then you turn the car on. So usually, if it's nothing major and you just need a power cycle, you go from P2, because that's where it would have been, all the way to P0. And then they'll tell you on the radio, go to P1. You go to P1, P2 again, then restart. It should take like 10, 15 seconds if it's not a big problem.
Well, it looked like it wasn't in the end. Joe got into the race and ultimately came home in P14. But obviously, we had that race start. Max Verstappen leading away beautifully as the lights went out. But behind him, Carlos Sainz got ahead of his teammate Charles Leclerc. But behind contact, Lewis Hamilton, Pierre Gasly and contact in the sprint is becoming something of a norm. I talked to him after qualifying yesterday. I said, what's the plan for tomorrow? He said, I just got to stay out of everyone's way, man. You know, like, me and sprints just don't go well together. And sure enough, once again, his allergy to the sprint proved very, very prescient.
Yeah, it wasn't unfortunate. He kind of had nowhere to really, he just carried on his line. Hamilton was there. I don't think it was just a racing incident. Caught him.
We have managed to find ourselves Christian Horner. Christian,
congrats.
Great job today from Max, great job today from the team, particularly Checo. 8 places made up. Does that show the pace, ultimately, of your car around this brilliant track?
I think it was a great recovery from Checo, because obviously yesterday was disappointing, you know, to have a 9-place effective penalty. So he got back 8 of them, so for tomorrow's race. So good recovery from him. Max, I think, managed the race really well. You know, pushed hard the first couple of laps, broke the DRS of the Ferrari, and then obviously managed the race from there.
Talking about yesterday, can I ask you, are you more frustrated over the fact that Checo was dropped that many places, or that his transgression in Q2 wasn't picked up at the time, so you had to stress the engine, use up more tyres, and ultimately for nothing?
Yes. That basically sums it up beautifully. I mean, it was very clear that he'd run wide. I'm not quite sure why it took so long to come to that conclusion. And then, of course, once you're in Q3, you know, you've got to run. And obviously, you know, that's engine mileage, it's tyres, it takes away strategic options, you know, for today and potentially even tomorrow. So, that was frustrating, but it is what it is, and a great recovery from Checo.
Absolutely. The Ferrari boys, certainly Charles, seem to think they've got decent pace for the race tomorrow. Are you guys at all worried about them?
Look, they're quick. I mean, they've been very quick all year. So you can see, I think, pace-wise, it's very, very close here. I mean, we were quicker in the first laps. They were maybe marginally quicker at the end of the race. So it's again, how you manage the tyre. You know, we attacked the tyre hard at the beginning of the race to break the DRS. That was a philosophy we had going into the race. So, you know, you pay a little bit for that at the back end.
And you've got to be loving the fact that they're letting their drivers fight each other, because while the Ferrari drivers fall all over each other, they're letting you run away with this, aren't they?
I would say run away. I mean, we scored 1 more point. So
well, not necessarily today, in general over the season.
So, look, I mean, we're happy with the grid positions for tomorrow. That's the key for us. You know, great crowd, great home support, and you know, we just got to try and convert. You know, we've got the pole. We've managed to retain the pole, you know, for tomorrow through the sprint race, and get Checo back in position.
Beautiful stuff. No, you're busy and in demand. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, Christian. Lovely. Right. Off the back of that, let's talk about Checo. I mean, a brilliant drive from him today. Yeah, look, that Red Bull is a rocket ship around here. We know it is. The engine loves being at high altitude as well. They've got a straight line speed advantage that we've seen all year, but he had to pull off the moves to make it work. 8 places.
Yeah, and Checo's always been that driver, you know. He's always the kind of racer mentality, always been able to start from the back, you know, blow through the field, and he has amazing racecraft. So, yeah, I think he has to definitely be happy with that performance, and puts him in a decent spot for tomorrow to fight for the podium.
Yeah, because Max didn't have a rear gunner today. Checo's got to put those moves on early doors, hope to get in the mix with the Ferraris, maybe even get ahead of the Ferraris if he can.
Yeah, I think the start is very important, and breaking that DRS, I mean, obviously, as Christian said, that was their mentality, starting from pole. As soon as you break the DRS, it's very hard, if the guy behind doesn't have a significant pace advantage, for him to be able to catch it again. So I think for Max tomorrow, it's going to be breaking the DRS. For Checo, it's going to be staying in the train there. And as soon as either Leclerc or Sainz break a DRS from one of the Ferraris, he has to take advantage, get one that way.
Make the move.
And then make the other move later on.
Fantastic. Why don't we hear from Sergio Perez? 8 places made up today. Started P13, finished P5.
Hey, Checo, good number of places gained today. Is that a job well done?
Yeah, I think was the maximum we could possibly do. You know, I think once we cleared them all, then George was a bit too far ahead. So it was the best we can do in terms of damage limitation. Now looking forward, I think we can fight from there and get onto the podium from those positions.
Yeah, starting from the clean side of the grid will help, and the car looked like it had good pace to make progress through the field. Getting onto the podium tomorrow, the bare minimum?
Yeah, that will be the target, so hopefully we are able to succeed on that.
Thanks.
Right. What should we talk about next? How about a little word for Alex Albon in that updated Williams? Didn't have the cleanest of days today. Picked up a 5-second penalty for forcing another driver off track. Esteban Ocon in that fight with him, I think it was. No, it was Lando Norris in the fight with Lando Norris. And then obviously sort of falling down the way and knocking into Sebastian Vettel. Well, did he knock into Sebastian Vettel, or did Vettel not give him enough space in the corner?
No, I think he ran a little bit wide. He had a bit of a wiggle there in the middle of turn 6, and I think Vettel gave him enough room and caused that contact. I don't know what the race director's decision was, but I believe he was one of the only guys to race on the soft tires.
Yeah.
And we were kind of contemplating, you know, starting on the softs because the track temp wasn't that high, and it looked like there was a grip advantage. But at the end, cloud coverage went away, and when the sun comes down and heats up the asphalt, then you definitely don't want to be on that soft tire. It's the softest compound we have. It's a C5 here.
Yeah,
and it's very sensitive to track temperature.
Absolutely. Can we hear from Alex Albon? I think we might be able to. If we can, then we'll hear from him now. We can't hear from him now, so let's keep moving. And let's move to your team, because a great qualifying performance yesterday, made even better, of course, with that Sergio Perez penalty. Both started in the points. Kevin finished in the points. And Mick, I gotta say, one of the drivers of the sprint for me, and not just because you're standing here, but he put up a superb defense to Lewis Hamilton in a heavily rejuvenated Mercedes, which has looked so quick all weekend. His defensive driving today was impeccable.
Yeah, he did a hell of a job there, and there was a shame he couldn't score points because he fought like crazy, defended very well every time. He was always able to get a good run out of 6, 7, and then out of the last 2 corners, 9, 10, to have just enough of a gap for Hamilton not to be close enough into turn 2, and then again into turn 4. And he did that lap after lap after lap. We thought like there would be no chance that Hamilton was gonna, you know, get him quick and then Kevin, but the way he defended helped Kevin secure the 7th place. And yeah, it was a shame he couldn't hold on. I think the lap that Hamilton got past, he just got away from the DRS.
Yeah.
And then it was easier for Hamilton.
Because Mick wanted Kev to stay a bit closer so that Mick could get the DRS to help in his fights with Lewis. It looked for a couple of laps until Lewis caught up to the back of Mick that perhaps Mick was even quicker than Kevin. Was there any suggestion of switching Mick and Kev? Was there any suggestion of Kev being able to fall back, or would the guys come in just coming too quickly?
The problem there is, like, for example, if you have 2 of your team, 2 of the same cars from the same team on track together and there's nobody really behind, then you can make the change no problem. But the risk is massive if you want to make a change between one teammate and another and you have 2 cars behind, because Bottas was approaching. When that transition happens and the guy behind attacks, it's too much of a risk to be able to do it. If there was a bit of a space from Hamilton to Mick, then maybe you could have thought about doing it. But when the guy is right there, the risk is too high for something wrong to go, for something wrong to happen.
Well, they will start tomorrow's race 7th and 9th, both in the top 10, so both in the points. We'll hear from Kevin. First, though, we'll hear from Mick.
Mick, you fought so hard out there, really kind of gave it everything you could to hold off Lewis. So how are the feelings now at this stage after the race?
I think that the fight with Lewis was quite fun. I think it was surprising to see that we were able to fight him that long. And also, I mean, the Red Bull behind us wasn't massively quicker. It was nice feeling. I think that we could have had points today, but for some reason or another, we didn't. We weren't allowed to do that, so something to be discussed.
What do you mean you weren't allowed to do that?
We were told to keep position, even though I felt like I was quicker, so we have to have a look.
All right, thank you. Hey Kevin, great couple of points to get out today.
Yeah, quite happy with that. We didn't look so strong this morning. I got a bit nervous about our pace, and then we made some changes. Of course, the limited amount of changes you can with the cars being in Parc Fermé, but seemed to straighten it up and get the pace back.
I think for a long time you and Mick looked like you were working together, staying in the DRS train, kind of trying to hold off Lewis behind. That looked like good teamwork, but then equally Mick was just saying that he was disappointed he couldn't get past you or wasn't allowed to pass you. Do you know much about that?
Yeah, I think Mick could have held Lewis. It looked like it was pretty consistently impossible for Lewis to get past him when he had DRS, but then he lost DRS at the end and then got passed because of that. And the team asked me to slow down to give Mick DRS, but it was already the next lap, but just after they asked me to do that he got overtaken. So it's not that I didn't want to help out. It's just it happened in a bit of a rush.
All right, thanks very much for explaining.
Interesting to hear from both your teammates there. I think perfectly explaining exactly what you had already explained as to why that ultimately played out the way that it did. But talking about that brilliant fight from Mick Schumacher, I know Jordan King back at F1 Central, you want to talk to us about that brilliant defensive drive from Mick Schumacher today, because in a car in the Haas that has not been upgraded all the way through the season, quick one, there you go, there's a man who's had a fantastic day, Sergio Perez. In a car, Jordan, that has not been upgraded all season long, he managed to defend against the newly upgraded Mercedes that has looked so fast, both at Silverstone and here in Austria.
Yeah, watching it back, it didn't really seem like Mick had to work too hard, really. He defended a little bit, he covered his line. We just heard from him that he wasn't allowed to overtake Kevin. But really, for me, Lewis just didn't seem like he had much fight and desire to really go at the two Haas's. When Perez caught up and got behind them, straight away he was up the inside, hard, aggressive move. You see here, it's kind of not one thing or another. He goes to the left. Mick does a great job in stopping it on the exit there. But then here, Mick gets the slipstream. He doesn't tuck back in early enough. He then goes to the outside, even though there's space on the inside. It just didn't feel like there was much fight or desire there, and he was kind of expecting the move to be easy, and he never got it done until eventually he did get an easy overtake with DRS. So, yeah, for me, it just never felt like he was really attacking and trying to get the move done early, up the inside, and really be side by side and get his shoulders and elbows out.
It was a fantastic battle, though. I think it was great fun to watch. Pietro, how did it feel back in the garage watching Mick?
Yeah, I think everybody was a little bit nervous because anything can happen at the end of the day, and there was a certain point where they were kind of fighting against each other there. But luckily, it played out to our favor. Kevin was able to secure 2 points, and Mick still finished 9th, which is a good starting place for tomorrow. But yeah, I think all the mechanics they're a little bit on the edge there, because when they're fighting, little lockup, you hit a guy and it's all over. So, and this dictates tomorrow's starting position. So imagine one guy breaks a front wing here, starts last tomorrow.
Exactly.
It's a massive hit. So
still big question marks over whether Esteban Ocon will be able to start from his P6 finishing position today, given that he did stop, of course, after the checkered flag down there in Sector 1. If we hear anything during the show, we will, of course, let you know, but keep your eyes peeled on F1.com for the latest on that. A quick word from Esteban Ocon, because we can hear from him and hopefully find out what went wrong with his car.
Hey, Esteban, it looked in some ways like a lonely race, but the pace still looked good.
Yeah, it was, but we like those, when it's for such results. We are pretty pleased, so yeah, perfect quali, obviously, yesterday. Really good race today. We made a little bit of a gap to the cars behind, obviously. There's still that fight with the 3 guys in front, the 3 teams, and, we are behind, so we are, stuck in between there, but that's the maximum we could have done, and pretty pleased with the result. And
sets the tone nicely for tomorrow when the bigger points are on offer. You kind of looking to just push on from where you are?
Yeah, that's the aim, of course, to get some more. Around this position, Lewis is going to pressure probably from behind. He's been coming back through the field, but we'll give it a race and do the best we can.
Great stuff. Have fun.
So good to hear from Esteban Ocon. We haven't really talked about the Mercedes drivers. I mean, we've talked about Lewis, and mostly in relation to Mick doing a brilliant job. But Lewis, P8. George did a good job in P4. Started P4, finished P4. Didn't really look like he was going to make inroads on the Ferrari, but managed to stay a decent amount ahead of Sergio as well.
Yeah, I executed well, and I think that fight tomorrow is going to be interesting. I don't think the Mercedes still have the pace of the Red Bulls and the Ferrari, in my opinion. But he'll be kind of like that buffer in between Perez catching the Ferraris tomorrow, and giving them a fight. So that could be interesting. But I was hoping, Mercedes could carry on that form of Silverstone, which they have, but they're missing a little bit, I think, compared to Ferrari and Red Bull. There's still a little bit of the deficit.
Yeah, they're expecting France to be the next race where they're really on song like they were at Silverstone. But a big thing overnight, of course, they had to rebuild both of those cars after 2 crashes during qualifying. And George is running an old rear wing now because they didn't have enough spare parts to build it up with all the new spec stuff. But why don't we hear from George? We didn't see much of him today. This is probably the most you would have seen him all afternoon in conversation with Lawrence Barretto.
George, we barely saw you on the world feed today. It looked like you had quite a lonely race up there.
Oh, you missed a lot. You missed a lot. No, nothing happened whatsoever. I spent most of my race watching Lewis battling with the Haas and Alex and Seb, and that was about it. But huge thanks to everyone in the garage who did an incredible job to repair, get 2 cars out today. It's still points on the board. We're still in a good position for tomorrow, Saturday P4. But ultimately, our pace wasn't where we hoped or expected it to be.
Were you surprised at the pace in which Red Bull and Ferrari were able to pull away from you at the start?
Yes, to be honest. We had a difficult practice. We actually forecasted to be about half a second off, but we kind of thought in the back of our minds that we'll be able to be closer than that. And as it turned out, that was correct. So, work to do for tomorrow.
Good luck. Thanks.
So we have just heard 2 drivers have been called to see the stewards for race start procedure violation, potentially a race start procedure violation. Daniel Ricciardo and Mick Schumacher. So they will be investigated for that. Not entirely sure why or what, but again, we will keep you up to date with that. McLaren up from 15-16, but still P11, P12 at the flag today. It's not the kind of result that McLaren want.
Yeah, for sure not. I mean, they were winning races last year and stuff, so at least they put themselves in a position to kind of fight for some points tomorrow. But I'm still thinking the race producer show, that kind of caught me off guard.
Sorry, mate.
Yeah, I know, that's weird.
Just as we were coming back, they just fed it into my ear. I'm sorry, I surprised you with that.
That's interesting. Hopefully it doesn't come out to anything, but racing against McLaren tomorrow. Obviously Mick's going to be starting 9th and Kevin in 7th, but they didn't look like they had so much pace today. I mean, Bottas kind of caught us with Hamilton because we were getting in that fight there towards the end. But hopefully it stays like that for us. It'll be beneficial.
There were a few 2x2s today, a couple of teammates racing line of stern. We saw it with McLaren, we saw it with your drivers. We also saw it at Ferrari, and we touched on it when we were talking with Christian earlier. Ferrari allowing their drivers to fight. Is that going to start holding them back in this fight? If they want to start bringing the points back against Red Bull Racing, have they got to pick a number 1? Can they allow their drivers to fight each other? Did fighting today allow Max to disappear, or is that just straight up down to the speed of the Red Bull?
For me, personally, I think today it was up to the speed of the Red Bull. I mean, Max was just quick off the line, boom, executed, broke the DRS. The dangerous part is today it was okay. It wasn't a problem for them to fight. The issue is, like, if you have Perez behind tomorrow and they start fighting, and then that gives him kind of an advantage, and he's able to take an advantage of that opportunity. That's when it starts becoming a problem, because then you start losing points that way. If you have a big gap to the guys behind and you're not going to catch the guy ahead, then it's no problem. But if you see there's a little bit of a train of cars behind, and you guys start fighting, and you start losing momentum, then then it becomes a little tricky.
Charles was catching Max towards the end. Again, I wonder whether that was the Ferrari coming on song at that particular part of the race, or whether it was Max just, I got this thing nailed, foot off, bring it home, no risk.
Yeah, because here as well, the exit curbs are they're really aggressive. You can always get especially the last 2 corners, like they have kind of these mountain curves with the white part.
Yeah.
And you can always damage the tire that way. They're always checking track limits. So I don't know if you had any warnings or anything, but usually if you have a big advantage here, there's no point to keep pushing that hard. 2-3 laps to go, you kind of ease it off, get the win and focus on tomorrow. I think it's hard to tell if Ferrari were actually able to pick up the pace towards the end.
If you are P2, P3, as Ferrari were today, do you allow your drivers to fight? I mean, we're going to see the replay of the guys fighting right now. Or can you actually get into a position where you utilize DRS to your advantage? Almost like a slingshot. You take the DRS, slingshot past me, I'll stay behind you, we get to the DRS, I slingshot past you. Can you use that as a benefit to each other rather than actively fighting one another and potentially losing time as a result?
In my opinion, that slingshot thing doesn't really work.
Doesn't work?
No, because then the guy behind doesn't have the rhythm with the dirty air. The problem is, well, if you have a driver staying too much behind the car, you start overheating the tires, especially turn 6, 7, and then 9, 10. You start overheating the fronts because you lose a little bit of clean air, you lose a bit of downforce. And doing that slingshot thing, I've never seen it work.
It's just in
qualifying, it can work if you get a massive toe and the guy gets a banger of a lap in.
One. Yeah.
But in the race, to like constantly, I think you'll
lap
lose
after
more
lap,
time.
just switch positions, lap by lap
lose
by
more
lap.
time in like giving up that time into the braking zone that you won't make up anything. It would be cool though.
Be cool, right?
Them, like together catching Verstappen, but
just little by little, bit by bit. Well, anyway, let's hear from the two Ferrari drivers. Weren't able to take the fight to Max Verstappen today. Can they tomorrow?
I had a good start, then a couple of fights there at the beginning, first with Max into turn 3, then with Charles into turn 3 again, a bit later in the race. Which was good. It was good fun, like it should be, good racing. But then, probably overheated a bit the tires running there behind Charles. I had to back off to recover them and finish the race.
Can you work together with 3 DRS zones to sort of close the gap and work with each other to get closer to Max tomorrow?
I cannot hear, sorry.
Can you work together with the 3 DRS zones to close that gap to Max tomorrow?
We will see. I think, first of all, we will need to improve a little bit the pace because he looked to be very, very strong at the beginning of the race. Then, little by little, it looks like we were starting to match him. Tomorrow is a longer race. Tomorrow we will go through different compounds. So I think anything can happen. The important thing is that we are both in the fight and we will try our best to beat the Max.
Okay, well, we wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Charles, I appreciate it wasn't victory out there, but the pace of the car looked really, really good. You must be excited about tomorrow.
It was, and yes, I am excited. We lost a little bit of time with the fight with Carlos in the first part of the sprint. Trying to save in the first part and then push at the end, but then once I push, I could feel that the tire and the car was there, so it's looking positive for tomorrow.
And you had a good battle with Carlos, nice and clean, and it went through quite a few corners.
Yeah, it was quite on the limit, but it was fun, hard racing.
Great stuff. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Well, just one person left to talk about today, I guess, Pietro, and that is, of course, Max Verstappen. He is, I'm not going to say unbeatable because that will jinx it for tomorrow, but he is just a monster around this place.
Yeah, he's always been. Even in the years where like Mercedes had a strong car, Red Bull have always been able to put up a fight over here. And I think that shows again today. Massive start, able to break the DRS in the first couple laps, and then, cruise to the win. Hopefully for the fans, it won't be as easy tomorrow to make it, exciting.
I don't know. I think there's probably 100,000 people out there who are hoping that it is that easy for him tomorrow.
I know, but could you imagine him winning and having to defend and stuff? I think that adds to the spectacle.
Yes, I think that's what we all want to see. All of us probably, except for Max Verstappen, who will be, I'm sure, rightfully delighted that he will start from the pole position with which he was credited by finishing qualifying in P1 and now finishes the sprint in P1, so he is still on pole.
Hey Max, after you held the Ferrari off at the start, it looked like a pretty comfortable race out there for you.
It was not bad, I think. The first few laps were, of course, very important to pull a gap. Then, of course, I got helped a bit with them fighting. And from there on, it was all about managing, which I think went quite well, but the last few laps, they were quick as well. So I do expect tomorrow to be a tight battle.
Yeah, I was looking at the timesheets. It looked like they set faster laps that were quicker than you. Did you have a little bit left in the tank? And obviously the race is a different thing altogether, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it is also, about managing the track limits, which are not easy around here. And I had the gap, so there's no reason to push to the limit.
Great stuff. Have fun tomorrow.
And that pretty much sets us up for tomorrow's Austrian Grand Prix. Pietro, you excited?
Yeah, very excited. And you never know, a little bit of chance of rain here in the mountains.
And it is forecast.
Start.
It is forecast. Yeah. So let's see.
You never know.
If it's going to come from anywhere, it'll come from behind those hills over there. You can always tell. It gets cloudy over those hills. It's coming, and it's coming fast. But talking of fast, will anybody be able to beat Max Verstappen? Ferrari got to pull something special out tomorrow to do that, haven't they?
Yeah, either with strategy or finding some pace. But the thing is that there's Park Fermé in the car, so you can't make setup changes. From qualifying to the sprint race, and then from sprint race to the race, you can't make any changes. The only thing you can change is front wing and a bit of the tools that you have on the steering wheel. And that's it. So you're kind of limited with what you have. So let's see what they can pull for tomorrow.
Well, I got to say, mate, I am very excited that we will be back post-race tomorrow to be discussing what we hope will be an exhilarating Austrian Grand Prix. We will, of course, be back as well. Not Pietro. He charges too much. But he won't be with us for the pre-race. But we will be back with you for the pre-race, for the Grand Prix itself, and, of course, for the post-race show, bringing you into the Grand Prix and digesting everything afterwards. Do not go anywhere now, though, because Formula 2, from here at the Red Bull Ring, you may be able to hear them in the background. They are just making their way to the grid. The race is in about 3 minutes' time, so don't go anywhere. Formula 2 action coming your way. But for now, from Pietro and I, from Lawrence Barreto asking the questions, that is your lot. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow for the Austrian Grand Prix. Enjoy the Formula 2.